Today we are looking at Orbea's Rise LT. This is a 150/160 lightweight trail eMTB with a full 85 Newton meters of torque available. How have they managed to pack such a powerful motor into this new build? Well, stay tuned on this Dissected series to find out more. The latest generation of the Rise aims to retain the original version's well-rounded capabilities while also allowing riders to push even harder into rough terrain. Our size large you see here weighs in at just under 41 pounds and comes with a 630 watt-hour battery with the optional 210 watt-hour range extender for those big epic days. The drive unit is Shimano's EP801 RS, delivering up to 85 Newton meters of torque and 600 watts of peak power. Additionally, this RS-tuned EP801 motor has two rider profiles, starting at 56 Newton meters of torque and going up to 85. Riders on the last model that were wishing for more power, well, you got it. With Orbea's RS philosophy, Profile 1 will still give you a more natural feeling and range-minded assistance compared to your standard EP801 motor. But with Profile 2, it gives you more support with a peak output of 85 Newton meters of torque.
One of the biggest visual changes to the new Rise is the asymmetrical brace connecting the down tube to the seat tube, increasing overall frame stiffness. This also allows Orbea to tune this brace per size, giving each rider and each size a specific feel on the trail. Orbea is offering two configurations of the new Rise, an LT as we have here, as well as the SL version. These use the same mainframe but a different shock link, fork travel, and build kits to give distinct characteristics to each bike in different camps of riders. On the Rise LT, you get the same Genius Geo flip chip adjustment done back here on the shock yoke with the Allen key, just a quarter turn. You're able to go from the high to the low setting, adjusting seat tube angle and head tube angle as well. The SL receives a carbon shock yoke without the adjustability aimed at saving weight. The size large Orbea Rise LT we have on test receives a 480mm reach in the low setting and 485 in high, with 440mm chainstays. The head tube angle lands in at 64 degrees in low and 64.5 degrees in high. The seat tube angle is a favorable 77 degrees in low and 77.5 degrees in the high setting. This all equates to a 1,257mm wheelbase in the low position. Joined here today with Parker DeGray from Orbea. Parker, what's your role over at Orbea?
I am the marketing manager for Orbea. I take care of all of our English-speaking countries, so I have US, Canada, and a number of other European countries as well.
And a little French-Canadian too, right?
A little French-Canadian as well.
Sweet. Well, we're going to go ahead and take a little bit deeper dive into some of the changes on the frame. And to start things off, can you describe to us and let us know kind of what was the focus on the frame and what changed from the previous model to this new generation?
Absolutely. This is the next evolution of Rise. So we took a proven platform in the light e-bike category and we evolved it to the next step based on user feedback, as well as kind of what we wanted to see the evolution of Rise become, and kind of partnered into this next iteration. So making sure that we had the essence of Rise still at the heart of this new bike, and what is that RS or that rider synergy philosophy that we developed with the first bike, and applying it to what is now two user groups, having a Rise SL for that weight conscious, that longer range, that more performance based consumer, as well as having a Rise LT for that more, shredder type consumer, somebody who wants more of an aggressive trail bike and more of just an aggressive feel.
Right on. And I mean, the most glaring option, right, is the new frame brace.
Absolutely.
What was kind of the motive there with the addition to that on these bikes?
So as we're striving for more performance in the bike, what we really wanted to push for was the right type of performance. So it's not making a bike stiffer just for the sake of being stiffer. We wanted to find a flex profile on the frame that gave the bike a more natural handling characteristic, made it feel more like our traditional trail bike. And so what we ended up noticing from the previous generation Rise to this one is that we wanted to increase that front triangle stiffness. The best way to do so in both a weight and efficiency standpoint is to add that asymmetrical brace. It lets us flex tune the front triangle to provide the best handling possible, but also lets us change the flex of the frame per size. So the individual smaller rider on a size small has the correct flex for them compared to the person on a big extra large that has a lot larger front triangle. To make a total package, though, we also needed to address the flex characteristics of the rear triangle as well, to make sure that we had a bike that was, again, the next step in performance, answering a lot of requests from other consumers to have a little bit more snappy, lively, cornering friendly feel, and bringing that to the table with this one.
Does the stiffness change on the rear triangle per size as well?
Stiffness in the rear triangle is going to be the same. It's a little bit smaller space, so it doesn't necessarily resonate as much between sizes. Same thing with the redesign and the linkage. The stiffness profile on that's going to be the same as well.
Sweet. And yeah, anything hidden that we can't see from the outside, kind of like that guy, as far as the motor area, or it just kind of the whole package was designed?
Whole package was designed and updated. I mean, when we're looking at a new frame design, like we've done with this, we wanted to make sure we got all of the features that we've found important in the rest of our lineup. So that even goes down to steep and deep, allowing to have a full seat post insertion on everything up to a 230 mil dropper, even down into a size small, means that more people can fit on more sizes and more people can run longer droppers. That's surprisingly difficult when you have a motor and charge ports and electronics in the way. So when those hidden features are there, the amount of engineering in just the charge port plug on the inside to allow a dropper to slide behind it is pretty impressive. And that's something that means we have a total package that is the best for the user, right?
No, absolutely. That's when you were talking about it, I was like, oh yes, I'm so excited to get it run the dropper nice and low.
That's exactly right.
So on top of the changes structurally to the frame, the suspension has also been re-engineered. Can you tell us a little bit about the new kinematics on this frame?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the next evolution of Rise. Wanted a little bit more performance out of it, and we didn't just want to add travel. So a slight change to the kinematics to allow the bike to be a little bit more supple right off the start, but also allow it to be a bit more progressive, offer some more ending stroke support for those who want to ride the bike a little bit more aggressively. Also make the coil spring option available in Mile a little bit more usable for a wider variety of riders. And so you can kind of, again, choose the ride feel that you want. So
yeah, it still retains the same overall feel like we were talking earlier, the like kind of mid, like it's a firm mid stroke, but it's not like really harsh on you, and it's found a nice balance.
Absolutely, yeah, and trying to get a little bit more traction into the bike than we've had in the past, while still, again, offering some more bottoming support.
Aiming towards that long travel crowd.
Correct, exactly.
So one of the big headlines here is that the bike has two profiles, right? You get your standard profile, and then you also have the option to go up to that 85 Newton meters of peak torque, right? Mm-hmm. Given that the previous RS systems were really aimed at being kind of a natural boost, which this one still remains that, what was the motivation behind offering that 85 over just kind of sticking with the previous tunes?
Absolutely. I mean, the RS philosophy is still there. The firmware that we've put in place, that elastic type ride feel, is still there between both profiles, both that Profile 1, which is that standard RS feel, as well as what we're calling RS Plus, or that Profile 2. It comes in two different aspects. Basically, more people want more power, and when you're riding steeper terrain or you're riding something that's more technical, having a little bit more support is something that people are finding is necessary, and we're listening to that and working that into the available options with that RS Plus. It's also something that Damien Anton and Gabi Turebo, the individuals who have been testing this product over the last couple of years, racing it on the EDRs, racing it in different mega avalanches, they wanted just a little bit more support, and that RS Plus was something that they were able to develop. The goal with the last RS was range, was getting something that echoed a normal ride feel, was there to support you but not kind of dominate your day. And so we wanted to maintain that, and we were able to apply more power with this bike because we developed a completely new battery. So we got more efficiencies from the battery, and it meant that we could still have class leading range. We could still have all those other features while still offering a little bit more power. So lightweight package, class leading range, and now we've got that, higher level of support or power for those who want it.
And it's still very like in tune with you. It's not like it's not a winch, right? But it's there, like, we're doing filming today, like climbing with the backpack, totally fine. And even I did one of the climbs in the trail mode. I was like, oh, I was in trail, like.
Yeah, no, that elastic feel, again, it gives it to you if you give it to the bike. It supports what you're putting into it, and just having a little bit more peak power is it's a welcome return for when you're really putting the power in.
And why not have the option to be there, right?
That's
like
exactly
you don't have to use it. And I think that's a really cool aspect of this bike offers.
Absolutely.
Well, I think it's time we go do some downhill riding.
Yep, I think a little bit more time on the bike is definitely warranted.
All right, let's do it.
Thanks, Parker, for all that great information. And now we're going to go ahead and jump back in time to when we were down at Sea Otter and Drew had a chance to sit down with Iñaki from Orbea. He manages the athlete development and sports marketing side of the brand. And we're going to learn a little bit more about how Orbea used their team athletes to help develop this new frame.
So when it came to the development, the testing of the new bikes, right? Obviously, before we get to the point where we see it today, there's prototypes, there's testing, you're working with athletes and in your lab. Can you talk about some of the big goals that you had with the bike and what you wanted to improve?
So in an e-bike, there are so many different aspects that that are needed to develop and test. So with Shimano, we decided to partner in order to push this testing, and we made a team of 2 riders, Damian Oton and Gabi Torralba, who has enough good experience, good riders, that they could push the bike to the limit in different scenarios. And from there, we could get a lot of inputs in order to develop the new Rise.
Was there a certain portion or type of trail, like were the riders riding the last generation Rise and the new generation side by side, back to back, and were there areas that really stood out where they said, I can feel a huge difference here or in that type of scenario?
And of course, yeah. And especially in races like the EDR, where the trails are demanding. And one of the main feedback from the riders, they were missing some stiffness on the frame. And so when we wanted to do, especially the LT version with more aggressive angles and for, let's say, more demanding terrain, and it was needed to work in this stiffness of the bike.
I wanted to touch on some other fun aspects on this new Rise, as well as Orbea as a whole. If you're not familiar with Orbea's My-O program, it is a section on their website that allows you to pick the colors and part spec on your bike, down to literally every detail. Each different logo, you can choose the color, you can choose colors on the wheels, the two-tone paint job, and then go into part spec to get the wheels, the tires, the grips, the brakes, the fork, shock, everything you want to make the build your own. No matter the model you choose, you're going to receive Orbea's second skin. This is an additional frame protection on all those high wear areas that just helps keep the bike looking like new longer. Also included on the frame is a fully loaded pivot bearing. This is a multi-tool down there in that main pivot bearing. Before we dive into our first ride impressions, I wanted to go over the 3 models offered from Orbea in this new Rise. Prices start at $6,999 for the M20, $8,999 for the M10, and for the M Team build we have on test, it lands in at $11,999 with the Fox factory suspension, a mix of XTR and XT Di2 group set, and Orbea's MC32 carbon wheel set. Since we've had limited time on this bike, we'll keep the riding impressions brief here. Expect a long-term review here in the future. I wanted to start things off with climbing. The climbing position, super comfortable. Power delivery is what you'd expect from a Rise. It's very natural, even in the Profile 2, but with that said, it does definitely have more power than the previous version, especially with my camera bag on, going up some steep climbs, and even to my own air, picking the wrong line and lay over the clip here of me doing a wheelie into a tree. But with that said, it's very Orbea-like. The RS tune is carried over. It's not super punchy, but it has the power when you want it. When it comes to pointing the Rise downhill, It's exactly what you'd expect. A lot of fun. It rides very much like a normal bike. It helps you up on the climbs. The motor and the sound from the motor on the way down is, you know, virtually non-existent. It did take some getting used to the new Grip X damper, and the first few minutes of the ride, that new damper noise was definitely ringing loud, but totally faded away by the end of our rides. The bike is very predictable in tight corners as well as off steeper lips. We were hitting some kind of steep and short lips that I was able to drop my heels preload in and send them completely blind, which is always a bonus. It's plush but supportive and very predictable when you're going through rougher terrain. I was able to point this down some rather blind sections of trail with full confidence first day, no problems at all. And I'm really looking forward to spending some more time on the new Rise here on my local zone to be able to push it on trails I know and kind of fine tune that setup and really find that happy medium. Thanks for tuning in today as we dissected the all new Orbea Rise. Big thanks to Orbea and especially Parker for playing talent yesterday out in Leavenworth. We're really excited to keep this in for a long-term test. And if you have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments or check out theloamwolf.com for the article detailing all the geometry, build specs, as well as the kinematics. Until then, we'll see you out on the trails.
No! That was my fault, not the bike's fault.